So let's talk engines.
Yeah. So now there's just one engine. It's always, I mean, we've just had one engine.
Per car, there was always one engine only, no?
Sorry?
Per car, there was...
Per car, there was your choices have been limited to one engine on the Swift for some time, right?
Oh, okay.
So earlier it was the 1.2 liter 4-cylinder, the K series, right? Which, according to me, is one of the best engines I have driven at any given point in time.
Okay.
It definitely deserves to be on a pedestal.
And that was mated to a Maruti gearbox, which is among usually the better gearboxes. So that would have been a spectacular combination.
So yeah, the gearbox also was superb. And I think it's a shame that this engine has not been given Engine of the Year award ever.
Let's not talk about awards. They have no relevance.
No, I mean, it just points out how it doesn't make any sense, because this engine is beautiful and it's never been called out for that. And now,
so the K stands for Kartikeya, right?
I'm going to call it that now. Kartikeya spec. I love that engine. So that engine is being phased out, right? We will still have it in some of the cars for some time, because you can be sure that this new 1.2 liter 3-cylinder engine will become the default for all the cars that are using the 4-cylinder version right now. This is called the Z now, the Z series or whatever, right?
So you're basically saying it is a 3Z, right? Z series.
Wow.
Wherever you're heading in that direction only.
PZQ.
No, not that bad.
You guys.
Not that bad, huh?
No. So that's what. The engine is actually functionally better.
Okay.
It's easier to drive. So, okay, another thing you have to remember is that the 1.2 liter was very zippy, the 4-cylinder, the K series engine. But with all the successive emission norms, it became softer and softer.
Yes.
It's still the best engine there of that kind.
Okay.
Right? But it's become softer and softer. Right? So my Ignis, which is pre-BS6, right, is very nice right from low RPMs. But the new engines became softer and softer.
Sure. Okay.
Right? Now this brings back that peppiness at low RPMs.
Okay.
Right? Becomes easier to drive. It's also quicker. Right? It's actually about 8 PS down in terms of power. Right?
Okay.
It's got a little bit lower torque. But in terms of 0 to 100 and all, it's quicker.
Has the gearing been changed to accommodate it?
No. So that's the other thing. So the gearboxes and the ratios are the same.
Wow.
That's not changed.
So it's just response.
It's just responsiveness.
Wow.
Right?
Okay.
And I also checked the max in gears and all. There's a slight difference, but that would be down to the other factor that this car revs slightly lower.
Okay.
The older car used to go to about 6,200 or something. This taps out at 6,000.
Okay.
Right? So it's still like in the sense that first gear is 45, second is 85, third is 130.
Yeah, these Maruti third gears are insane.
Yeah, and it just drives smoothly, right,
Yeah.
throughout.
Yeah.
So the performance is very much there.
Right.
Right? It's quick, it's easy to drive, and the most impressive bit about this engine is how smooth it is.
Okay.
Right? I drove first the AMT. The AMT wouldn't let it shift down below 1500 RPM. It would just keep it above that, come what may. So you never got into the real low RPM zone where it would start, shuddering and, jhatka dena like that. Couldn't get it to do that. So then I drove the manual. And the manual, I pulled it down to almost 500 RPM. I'm not kidding. I wasn't looking at the RPM meter. I was just driving. And at one point I said, I'm just going to let it go as low as I can and I'll accelerate. So I accelerated and it was like there was no response for a second. And I was like, why is it doing that? And then I looked down. I was like, man, I'm at 500 RPM.
Wow.
And from there, it pulled without any jhatka, without any noise, nothing. It just got going.
Nice.
So usability, great, right? There's no issue with that. The 3-cylinder aspect of it, somewhere you will feel, of course.
Sure.
Like you feel that slight pulse when you're at idle or at lower speeds. The bigger factor for me is you feel some of that boominess. That 3-cylinder has that heavy kind of feel.
Yeah.
You hear that at times.
Okay.
Right? So like when you're
at certain rev ranges, there is a...
It's there little bit when you're at higher speeds.
Okay.
It's there. Right? So typically when you're traveling on the highway and with the old 4-cylinder, it would just be quiet. The engine you don't hear practically.
Right.
It's just going unless you decide to
rev it out. Yeah.
Yeah. Until then, it's just there in the background doing its thing. So here, this has a little bit more presence.
Okay.
Does it bother you? Not really. I'm doing a comparison.
But I suppose if it's always there, you'll also get used to it over some...
Correct.
I mean, you shouldn't have to get used to it, but you will get used to it if you have to.
You don't have a choice about this. You have to get used to it because this is the only engine you have. And...
for now. This clip is actually from a much longer video, which is on our main channel, which is called MotorInc. Why don't you visit us there? This idea in more detail over there with my great friend Kartikeya. You like him, right?